In the country's warped history with terrorism, the seed often planted in the quest for destruction is radicalization. The recruitment process of individuals, some of them young minds, into terror groups has costed the country lives and inflicted fear and terror in many. Tonight, Gina Curie interrogates the process of radicalization and how it happens in the final installment of our special report, 10 years after Westgate, a decade since the Westgate terror attack happened.
Defining how radicalization occurs can be a frustrating process for those tasked with countering it. But much like the beast of terrorism it births, it does not function in a straightforward manner. As the country reflects on the dark chapter that was the Westgate attack 10 years on, security experts argue that the focus should not just be on the act of terror, but the process of radicalization.
This crime is not like robbery or like murder, where you take a weapon and kill someone. This crime is made up of different segments, different cells. So perhaps that small information you think is small is what is needed to connect one cell to another and therefore open up a bigger investigation.
Between 2010 to 2015, Kenya experienced the most robust levels or attempts by Al-Shabaab to radicalize with the aim of recruiting youth, especially in the coastal areas.
If Kenya had seen and responded to the ideological issues, manipulation of religion, misuse of religion way much earlier, then it could have put in place preventive measures way back. And we would not have seen the kind of recruitment that we actually saw in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14 to 2015.
Under pressure to stem the wave and amateurs to the tact of terrorism, Kenya's security agencies found themselves at the center of a moral storm as police officers raided mosques in Mombasa, arresting rogue clerics. What followed were extrajudicial executions of Muslim clerics perceived to be Al-Shabaab sympathizers, the killing of Abu Drogo and Sheikh Abubakar Sharif, alias Makaburi, were linked to the state by human rights groups. The International Center for Counterterrorism, based at The Hague, attributes the following factors to radicalization across different countries. Communities struck by poverty, disease, illiteracy, and bitter hopelessness, social and religious inequality, marginalization and exclusion, political oppression and the violation of basic rights, injustices, misery, starvation, drugs, exclusion, and prejudices, alienation of the youth in situations of economic deprivation.
Radicalization does not happen like lightning. Radicalization is a process, like I said. So if someone is getting radicalized, you will see there is always a signature that someone is different. And this happens in everywhere that radicalization happens. There's change. There's physical change. There's attitude change. There's change of association.
The Prevention of Terrorism Act 2014, which guides formulation and supervision of the implementation of the National Strategy and Action Plan on Counter-Financing on Terrorism, forms the neurocenter of the country's fight against terror. However, the global village that is the internet has proven to be the Achilles heel in the country's war against terror in the past, as terrorists take advantage of the web to pump misinformation, particularly to young minds who are easily persuaded into recruitment.
Even gaming has become a way of indoctrination. So while we may think that it is just an ordinary game that people are playing, hidden in those algorithms are radical content. So it's very important that even as we give access to our children, to our youth, to these smart gadgets, that we also watch out for what it is that there is being fed into them.
We see terrorists coming up with new tactics. The way they are recruiting is not the same way they used to recruit 10 years ago. If you look at the various waves of terrorism, you actually see in this wave, which is the fourth wave of terrorism, the so-called religious or jihad wave, the religious ideologies, misuse and manipulation of religion has taken a center stage.
In 2019, Kenya established the counter-terrorism action plans in the 47 counties to boost the country's security muscle and fight off violent extremism, which includes early response programs and community engagements on the same. These plans may prove to be challenging as radicalization changes form.
You have to kill terrorism.
Forensic psychologist Oscar Gidhoa, who has met and counseled several returnees, says it's happening online.
There's actually such a thing as self-radicalization, where a young person can actually get convinced on their own, and based on their own vulnerabilities, they can actually fit into that. So what is happening? Radicalizers are casting out a net, and just like anybody who's fishing, when they get some 2 fish, they've succeeded. When they get 10, they've succeeded more, and that's the idea.
Now, security experts argue that in order to counter terrorism, the foundation stone of it, being radicalization, must be executed to break the network of extremism and malicious intent on Kenyan soil. Ngena Kirori, NTV.